Hi, I'm the host of the STO Smokers Lounge. I'm here to tell you about Anchor, the perfect app that you can use right now to start your own podcast network. You can broadcast right now. All you got to do is download the app, whether you have a phone, iPad, or even a laptop or desktop. You can right now download Anchor or go to Anchor FM right now and start recording and have your stuff broadcasted over multiple platforms such as Spotify. So go to Anchor today and start your podcast career like I have. Because trust me, I love me some Anchor.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing today?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You sound so relaxed now.
Sorry, I've been like, I had some surprise distracted me so hard that I missed the time. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, it's understand. Hey, look, I totally understand because in my world it gets very busy too. Believe me, sometimes I be burning the candle on both ends, literally. So I know the feeling.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
I have to say, the movie The Old Ways, that is one of five films I ever watched that made the hair on the back of my neck tingle.
That's
That's why I
cool.
said it was to me one of the top five of all time, in my opinion. You know, period. I know a lot of people might be like looking at me like I'm sideways, but please go check it out on Netflix, man, because this thing is good. This is an independent
That's
film, am I
cool. Yeah,
correct? Done by your.
oh, yeah, extremely independent. We just made it and hoped somebody would like it.
Oh my God! And the reaction and what's the reaction you've been getting so far?
It's been good, you know. I mean, it's kind of weird because of the mix, kind of just all Twitter and Instagram and couple we got some reviewers and stuff like that, so that's nice. It feels really positive. I mean, there's people, we're getting close to Halloween, so people are starting to I'm starting to see things on social media of people doing like makeup, cosplay stuff, which is really
Uh-huh.
cool. And I mean, I know we were number one movie in America for on Netflix for a minute, and I don't know how
Yeah,
long, maybe a couple days or a day or two. We were the number
man, it was a
one
week. It was a
thing.
week because I
Yeah,
kept looking. I just kept looking at it. I said, okay, I kept looking at it. I said, should I watch it? Because it looked interesting. And
yeah,
when they first had it up, it was in Spanish. So I said, man, I don't feel like watching no subtitles. But then after a couple of days, it became English, and I said, well, let me check it out. And it like I said, it takes you on a joyride. Um, Most definitely. I like the style of it. I just like the imagery of it. So I got to ask you from the beginning, like
yeah.
when you got the script, what was your first thought of the
Well,
movie?
Marcos, who wrote it, he's one of my oldest friends. We've been making stuff together since 1995. He and I are always like cooking up something. So I was
Mm-hmm.
there. He 10 pages or something. I think that's where how it started. And he gave that to me and was like, "Do we have something here?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome." So then we just started kind of bouncing stuff off each other, and he started writing, and then we'd rewrite together, and I'd do research, and I'd find, you know, some really interesting archaeological stuff or historical stuff and things like that, and I'd bring it to him, and he'd try to fold it in, and it was a real fun process. And I know I just but from the get-go, his first kind of few pages, which was originally it like just started off with her getting dragged into that room.
Yeah.
um and it was like, cool, this is a different movie, it's exciting. So we just started working as if it was going to be a thing. It just started going.
So when y'all finally got to the point where it was time for like production, what have you, how did y'all go through the process of picking your cast, picking the leads, picking the people that were going to be in it? And also the other part I like about it is that y'all did it, I think, went on location in South America, or well, I
Yeah,
don't know where it was at.
we actually shot it. Most of it we shot in Burbank, California, in a soundstage, and then
Yeah.
we did a couple days in Puerto Rico for the
Mm-hmm.
exteriors because the actors union, because we were such a low budget movie, they had like really restrictive rules about where we could take our cast, and we weren't allowed to take them out of the country. So we started looking in Puerto Rico because it's in the country.
Yeah.
And really got lucky with the locations there, because the cave that we found like looks exactly like I'd drawn it on a dry erase board like a year and a half earlier when Marcus and I were just working on the story. And I thought we'd have to kind of do that and kind of do some CG or computer stuff to make it look like a mouth with teeth. And our producers found the exact thing in the real world, so that was pretty epic when we got to see that.
Yeah, that let you know that movie was meant to happen right there. It let you know.
And that was right when COVID was about to take off. We were there with bats all around us, and that's when people were saying, "Oh, maybe it came from bats." And there were like probably 100,000 bats in that cave, I would say, easily, all above us. And we were like, "Oh man, are we gonna get some sort of super disease from these?"
And I know. Was the actors and actresses kind of scared of the bats? I know they were probably like, "What the hell?"
No, they were. In fact, we only took Bridget, who's the lead, into the cave, and she, no, she wasn't scared. The cave was so big, like so high, that it was like being at a zoo. I mean, they weren't like up in your face or anything. So if it was like a narrow, low ceiling thing, it would be a little bit different. But they were, I mean, it must have been 40 feet up in the ceiling, and it was daytime, so they were just kind of like sleeping. But then we'd shine the light up there or something, and they'd get like annoyed and fly around and make noise. But yeah, it wasn't. It could have been a lot more challenging, and it really wasn't so bad. We had a really small crew when we were there in Puerto Rico, so it was about, I don't know, 6 of us or something. So it was a lot of like manual labor for us all, because we were carrying everything around and tromping through the jungle. But yeah, it was really cool overall.
So how did you go about picking the cast for each department?
I'm gonna shut my window here because there's a garbage truck coming. We hired a casting director who specialized in diverse casting, and she did like an open call, I guess, or whatever they do, and sifted through lots and lots of people for us, and then brought us kind of her selects, and we found, I mean, on the first day of seeing her kind of select reel of people, we saw Andrea, who played the cousin Miranda, and she blew us away. We were like, "Great, let's get her." And we saw Julia, who played Luz, and she was amazing. Like, let's get her. We saw Sal Lopez, who played Javi, and he was like the polar opposite of the way Marcus had written the character, but he was so good, and it was obvious that we were just like, he's the one, let's get him. So we thought we were like good to go. We're like, we did it. This is gonna be easy. And then it took us like months to find Christina, who ended up being played by Bridget Kelly Canales. Because that role, which we didn't, I mean, we kind of knew it when we were writing it, but it was a really tough role. There was a lot of sides to the character. You know, she was very kind of guarded and like psychologically damaged and vulnerable, but also tough and witty, and then physically, the role was very demanding. So we kept seeing people who were amazing actors, and could kind of like kill it. You know, they had 3 or 4 scenes that they would, you know, read through and just blow us away on 2 or 3 of them, and then you get to this other kind of angle, and it wasn't as believable, and we just kept running into that over and over, and we had to push the shoot date a few times later and later, and it got to the point where we were scared we would have to cancel the whole shoot because we couldn't like ask the crew to not take a job. They had to work. So then she came in on the 11th hour, and we hired her, and we started shooting like less than a week later. And so we didn't really have any rehearsal together or any time to get to know each other. We just hit the ground running and figured it out as we went. And just, yeah, she show up super prepared every day and have a ton of ideas and a ton of questions and thoughts on how to do stuff. And we had the one benefit too of like pushing the shoot over and over again is that me and my assistant director and my cinematographer had lots of time to prepare and plan things out and walk through the set with just ourselves and an iPhone, and you know, kind of pre-shoot things. And so we had a lot of ideas and a game plan in place, and it was we got lucky though. I mean, I think she's a star.
Yeah, because I remember seeing her on. Cause I looked her up, and I remember seeing projects that they had listed for her, and the role of Christina, she really rocked it. Because the one thing I liked about the movie is that the pace of the movie. It was like once ever she got grabbed, it slowed down.
Yeah,
and it left you with a sense of you was questioning whether it was the brouhaha or if it was her that was causing everything. You know, I kind of like that because it's like a lot of movies, sometimes you kind of know it, you see it. It's not no question or what have you. But in this instant, you didn't know whether it was the brouhaha's doing this for whatever reason and she might have ill intent, or she really is possessed. You know, how were y'all able to pull that off, and what was your thought process behind doing it that way versus just giving them the action, making the action heavy?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I mean, it was always in there as what we wanted to do, and we really wanted to play with perspective. And this is really from Christina's point of view. So, you know, at the beginning, these people feel very threatening and dangerous, but we didn't want to lie to the audience. We just wanted to like show it from her point of view, if that makes sense. So if you watch it again, you don't go back, oh, why was he like twirling his mustache here? You know, like he was never doing that. It's just like if you're a woman who wakes up in a place and can't speak the same language as the people doing something strange to you, they're going to be scary until you find out what the deal is. So we really wanted to honor that. And
because even to the point, I like the touch that they allowed her to be able to use the heroin and shoot up, you know, period. So it's kind of like, well, they got a kidnap, but why they letting her use the heroin?
Well, you know, it kind of had to be like, you know, it had to be a self-actualization process.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't force her to change. They had to allow her to change willingly. So there's that part. right at the midpoint, where she actually asks for help, which is like if we're kind of following a addiction recovery kind of arc, that part's like super important. The people have to want to be helped.
Yeah.
Help on them without their permission.
Yeah, because it was like even with her cousin, Miranda, it was like you saw parts of the movie. She wanted to help her. She wanted to help, maybe even help her escape, but then she like come to and be like, "Nah, I can't help you."
Yeah.
But see, I think that really played into the movie because it kind of it kept you guessing, but at the same token, it eased you to when it did pick up, it really picked up and it caught you off guard, period. It's like with some of the imagery that y'all did and the special effects, who was the person that was behind that, and how y'all come up with some of the ideas for some of the stuff y'all did in the movie?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I did most of the visual effects myself. So I was just sitting here in my office during COVID, so
yeah,
I started doing stuff like this for years, but I had to teach myself a lot of stuff because this was definitely beyond my existing skill set to a certain degree, but not like way beyond it, just like a little. So I had to learn how to do like digital sculpting and animation and some stuff like that, and I had to learn how to do all the smoke simulations and all that for the magic smoke that's in the kind of last third of the movie. And but it's a team thing, I mean, it's me and it's Marcos, the writer, and it's the cinematographer Adam, and it's our makeup artist Callie, and we hired a creature designer who'd worked on a friend of mine's movie. His name's Keith.
Yeah, that
Thompson,
was sick. That team was sick. I was like, which I got to ask you about that, but go ahead.
Yeah. So it was a lot of back and forth and a lot of good ideas, and try to and make it happen.
Now, this is what I wanted to ask you about. Did y'all go with the creature? Did y'all go with the thought of it being a djinn versus that of a traditional demon? Because, spoiler alert, the way she killed him, that she crushed his heart. So to me, that led to that y'all kind of wanted to make him vulnerable, but yet invulnerable in some way. So that's why I thought y'all might went more with a djinn type creature than that of an actual demon. And why did y'all go that route?
You mean like a genie type of djinn?
Yeah, the bad genie. Because the way of the depiction, the smoke and all that, I was like, period. So where did you get the inspiration for that? And was that I was going versus the traditional, this is a demon. It makes you do all that, but this is a demon. You gotta do an exorcist type shit, period.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, to us, it was always a demon, and that there are lots of demons. And we were inspired by the earpiece made a noise. We were inspired by the some trips I've taken down to Belize and other Mayan regions where like young men, when they were becoming men, would be taken to a cave and have to go into the cave for like a week or a long amount of time by themselves, go all the way into the darkness where they thought it was like some sort of entryway to the underworld. And if they came out alive a week later, then they were now like a warrior. And if not, they were dead or had been taken, or whatever may have happened. So the idea that this
back in the day, a lot of blood sacrifices, definitely.
Exactly. So imagining that La Boca is like a, an entryway to a hellmouth or something, because I'm also like super inspired, or I loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all those things.
Yeah,
So
me too.
they had that, hellmouth idea there in Buffy, where there's just like this place where a lot of like things can cross over from the other side. So it was definitely always a demon from that standpoint. And we were also playing with the like family and love and all that kind of stuff. So like the heart really started to bubble up as a obvious symbol. And yeah, I don't, we never really intended it to be a genie or any of that type of thing. But I may, that may also be my ignorance about, like, I know a little bit about the lore of them, but
the reason why I say that, because anyone that's one of the takeaways, because when you see a traditional, they say, horror flick which involves a demon, a possession of some kind, or a parasite, or anything you want to call it, the way you destroy it, the way you destroy it is usually through exorcism, burning some bones and shit like this. Y'all did it in a different fashion. You feel what I'm saying? Because it was to the point where she reached out and you could see he was like invisible. You could see his heart, and she was able to crush his heart and kill it, which to me was a twist, because I was expecting like some like, this is the South American version of what you would get from an exorcism, the Exorcist movie type situation. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't like that. It was more of, they physically killed it.
Yeah.
Well,
so what they were trying to do, like, so they had to try to make it real, because it was always kind of like in a spirit form, and they didn't quite succeed there in that first scene with Luce. So that's why she gets succumbs to its power, I guess. But then when it does like corporealize or whatever you call it, later, then she's actually able to do like her own psychic surgery on it, like from the earlier part of the movie, and remove its vital organs, I guess. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we can spoil it all day. Y'all go to watch and enjoy it. I can watch it 4 times.
Yeah.
Because even to the point, even when her cousin ended up succumbing to the demon, and she had to take over the brew, it's like you guys really thought it out to kind of like, the overarch is she took over where the original left off. That she basically, she was being trained, but didn't realize she was being trained at the same time being exercised. And I thought that was so cool because, like I said, it's made the movie different from what you would typically see when it comes to horror films.
Yeah, and that was a real process, and just the writing. Like, it wasn't. I don't think. No, we didn't initially say, "Hey, let's write a movie about a girl who does this and becomes a bruja." It actually was, the first draft was a man, and the story kind of like it's like a divining rod, or a Ouija board when you're writing. If you're paying attention, like it starts to tell the story it wants to tell. And we got to the end, and as soon as we got to the end, because we were actually writing it for AJ Bowen, who is like the boyfriend, or what, like the editor at the end of the movie, because he's a friend of ours, and we knew like he would be in our movie. And he's a big, like, he's in a lot of like really popular cult horror films and thrillers and stuff. So we were like, he's like he's the most famous person we know. So we were writing it for him, and we got to get to the end of the script, and we're like, oh, this needs to be a woman. Like, it wants to do this. So we rewrote the whole thing with the female character. And it's really just like, you go through it, you get to the end, it tells you what it wants to do, and you go back and make that make sense. And there's a thing that I don't know if it's in a writing book or something I heard from somebody, but they call it inevitable but surprising. That's how you want
Yeah.
your movie to end, where it's like, oh, that's the only way it could have ended, but also it needs to kind of surprise people. But then when you think back, you're like, oh yeah, that was obvious the whole time. That had to happen. So that's the dream scenario, I think, is to try to get that to happen, because it's a really satisfying feeling as an audience.
And then you left it open for a sequel.
Oh yeah. Hopefully,
See, that's what I love. It was defined. It was like,
yeah.
oh, we might could have a sequel here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now,
one of my favorite movies is Unbreakable. I don't know if you've seen that, but
yes, I
it's
know the whole
like, I love that movie because you don't realize while you're watching it that it's just like an origin story for a superhero, and it just feels like a thriller about this thing, and then at the end you're like, oh my god, this is like a comic book that I didn't know existed. So I love stories that do that, and we love the idea of, like, if this thing is popular enough, being able to do either more movies or a TV show or something like that, because I think it's we have that red book and it's full of demons.
Yeah, I mean, y'all hit Netflix, so I mean the possibility, and people do manifest on my podcast. I would love to see that as a series, because it's like, with one, I love her look, because one, it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of people cosplay it, and two, it's new age traditional.
Yeah.
In my way, I really found that shit sexy. When I saw, I said, "Oh my god, I like the way." That was like, who came up with that one? Who came up with that look?
That was me and my makeup artist, Callie. I would always start off with some, like, really kind of rudimentary drawings to kind of get us in the same headspace. But I don't like actually know anything about makeup personally, but I really had a idea for, like, the graphic nature of it. I wanted there to be a real memorable, stark kind of graphic look. So I kind of drew something simple. I think I drew the hand kind of print on the face, and the red lip, or the chin. And then Callie took that and put her own spin on it. She's Latina, and did some research, and then we started talking about, like, well, how would they do this makeup, practically, like, the people, where would it come from, what would it be made out of? And so that's when we started getting into, like, it's some sort of clay that maybe they got from, like, a river bed or something, so that's why it's cracked and white, and then the red stuff is obviously some sort of chicken blood, or whatever, something from a sacrifice. And then we kind of just went back and forth, and she made it real, and then she did tests on. I think she did a test on our one of our producers, Krista, because she had a similar skin tone, and so she got to wear all kinds of weird prosthetics and stuff. And so it was it was a back and forth, and then I think we got her look first, and then we created. I think so. I think we did hers, and then we kind of used that language to create the main Bruja look, and then the just kind of the flashback Bruja. So they all kind of, like, live in the same world a little bit, but
now when you talk about research, where did you pull a lot of the imagery from, the look, the actual thought process of the movie? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a lot, like, books and internet and documentaries. A lot of it, we worked backwards from the idea that, like, okay, there's these ancient religions and these ancient customs and beliefs. What if they, weren't invented, but they were based on someone had seen the demon, because we're looking at all these things, and there's skulls of like royalty and stuff that they found buried, that where they had elongated the skulls of the babies, and you can Google it, you can find it. So I was like, well, what if
I'm a documentary buff myself, History Channel all day. So
yeah. So the idea is like, well, why did they do that? Did they just say, let's torture this baby, or did they say, oh, we've seen this deity, let's try to honor it, or base it on that? So I built the demon's head. The head is long like that, and it's got this weird kind of alien, kind of stretched out look. And then there's pictures of like ceremonial headdresses where there are just like these hands on the face of like the priest or whoever it is, that's wearing the headdress, just like these hands on their face, and it looks kind of strange. And I was like, well, what if that's the handprint? So we did that. The demon has the handprints on his face, and there's teeth. They find teeth in the burials that have holes drilled in them, and stones, and precious metals and stuff like that, turquoise in the teeth, and it looks horrifying, and very painful. And we're like, well, what if the demon has that? So a lot of it, we kind of worked backwards from these I guess you call them archaeological, or books and images, and stuff that we found, and just tried to like root it in that, as if all these things were based on a real creature or demon that they'd seen in a cave at some point thousands of years ago.
Yeah, you hit it spot on. Oh, by the way, hello everybody from the Smokers Lounge. Say how good this show is out this piece. I am talking with Mr. Christopher Alender. Alender. And he is the director of The Old Ways, a movie which is on Netflix, which I so do love. You people need to go check it out. So that's how I start my show. I don't tell nobody the name until we get to a certain part. So they be listening, like, okay, yeah, who is this? Who's this? Who's this? Then I give it to them. You feel me?
So, it just came out on Blu-ray and iTunes and everything too. So the Blu-ray's got like, if you want to know how it was made, there's like a feature-length documentary we made on there.
Oh snap!
There's a commentary track. There's deleted scenes. There's all kinds of, like, we wanted to make it chock full of stuff, because obviously,
now I get
and we're releasing a vinyl record of the soundtrack, because the soundtrack turned out so good, and the artwork on the record is insane. You got to check it out.
Yeah, most definitely. So now that, like I said, with my podcast, we talk about the business of things. Most of the time I talk about adult film, but this is kind of mirror image, because we both do movies. He's just, when he yell cut, it's when either the hero done killed the villain or what have you, or he got a nice little twist. I yell cut when we bust a nut. Now, with that being said, how do one, be it that you're an independent film creator and you don't have the big budget, you don't have the distribution like that of the companies, how do one get their movie out there, and what the ways that people can do that?
Well, we just made the best movie we could, and then we submitted it to film festivals, and we got into the there's probably 3 main festivals that are the best ones to get into for like a horror film, and we got into one of those, which was in Spain, and it's called Sitges, and we premiered there. And then once we got accepted, then I reached out, because I've produced, I don't know, well, and then around 10 movies or so over the years. And so I have a couple of relationships with sales agents and all that. So once we got into the festival, I called up the sales agents and I was like, hey, we got into the big thing, because they always need you need something to get people excited.
Yeah.
So I called them up. So we got in, they're like, oh, that's great. But it was COVID times. So normally they would like, it'd be a whole thing. Like you'd go to the festival and you'd have meetings and you'd do like secret screenings and handshakes and this and that. But this was like, I think they just emailed it to like 20 people who buy movies and said, hey, this movie's cool. It's premiering, next week. It's it, Jess. You better check it out. That's kind of all that it was. We had, I think, about 5 places that were seriously interested and were kind of bidding against each other, and Netflix kind of came to the
Apparently
table
one.
with the biggest, the most attractive offer between the financial side and the exposure side, which both were important to us. So we went with them and cross your fingers, because you never know. I mean, there's so many movies on Netflix. You never know if it's just going to be like bloop and gone, or if it's going to be sitting there on the top 10 list.
I know when I saw it, it was on the top 10 list. So
that's cool.
But because I know like the biggest part of when in that world is finding distribution, finding a place for it to land. Of course, you want to make money with it and everything, and also having relationships that enable you to get into them spots. How important is relationships in your business?
Yeah, it's pretty important. I mean, on all levels. I mean, it's been. I moved out here in Hollywood, 1998, and didn't know anybody except for the people I graduated school with, and we you just start building relationships over the years, and so it's a massive network of tiny relationships that have blossomed into bigger and bigger, and building a reputation for yourself so that when you do finally call someone up and say, hey, can you come work on my movie, or hey, will you take a look at my movie, or hey, will you read my script, or whatever, that you actually, there's someone who's going to pick up the phone and say yes. So it's like they always say, oh, it's who you know, but which is true, but it's like, it's such a process. It's not a light switch. Like, oh, people, you don't know people. It's like, well, I know, some other interns or whatever it was, runners and PAs, and then now we know people who are writers, and now those people are getting jobs somewhere else, and now they're VPs at places, or now I've done a short that got attention, and so I've got an agent, and now my agents know people, so then they can call people and vouch for me, and so it's definitely who you know, but it's not the way that sounds when you first hear it, when you're like a teenager coming up, wanting to come to Hollywood. It's like, you got to have patience, and build the relationships, and the relationships are built on experience with each other, and experience your abilities, and your professionalism, and your artistic skill, and all that, So it's just a thing I've been building towards for a long time. But I saw a stat somewhere. It's like the average first-time director is like 40. Everyone, you hear the story of like the Steven Spielbergs who were like 24 or whatever, making their first movies, and because those are exciting stories. Those are the ones you hear. No one's like, it was so cool. This guy paid his dues for 30 years, and then he got to do it. So no one ever talks about that because it's not that interesting.
It's not that sexy. They don't hear over time. They want to hear extraordinary. He did his first movie at 18.
Yeah, exactly. And those are fun to hear. And and those are the get rich quick kind of stories that we like to gravitate towards, but it's not very common.
So when
my
you first,
experiences.
so when you first started, when you got to Hollywood and you first started getting into the industry, what was you were doing? Because I reading here, you were saying you was doing movie trailers. What type of movie trailers was you doing? And then as you progressed, what else did you start to do as you moved towards becoming a director and
Yeah.
directing
Well,
movies?
I was one of those kind of jack of all trades types. So when I came out, I did a lot of stuff. I was an editor on some movies. I edited a movie for what's his name, Todd Bridges, right when I first moved out here, which was pretty interesting. I was a camera guy, assistant camera. I was a DP. So I was doing the kind of like uh, freelance independent film thing, but it kind of when you first come out, like it's hard to get the jobs, and there's time in between it, and then you start getting worried that you're not gonna have enough money to pay the rent or whatever. So eventually, I got a job, like more of a traditional entry level job as a
Mm-hmm.
production assistant on a TV show. Um, and that was more of a like a 9 to 5 kind of thing. And then somehow got a friend of a friend like left a job. They were like a temp at Disney as an assistant, like a answering phones and stuff. So I went and got that. Somehow got that job, and that was in the marketing department at Disney. So and then meanwhile, actually, Marcos was working as an entry level person at a trailer company. And I think it was actually he got promoted, so they needed to replace him. And he's like, I know someone, so he introduced him to me, and then I got a job there, and we both worked our way up at that place, and then eventually I was doing trailers and all kinds of post production stuff like that, and kind of segued that into like a moonlighting side job at home. Meanwhile, Marcus and I were doing short films, and we won some contests. There was like a bunch of contests on the internet back then, like that was like Internet 1.0. And we won a little bit of money, and we're able to buy like our own editing system, which was like in the early 2000s. Like it was still really like prohibitive to like now you can edit a movie on your iPhone or whatever, but back then it was still pretty expensive. So we were able to get our own system and started doing more work, and then just kind of like started snowballing from there, doing more and more commercials and trailers and promos and short films and working for Disney and other studios, um, and then I kind of built my studio around that, just bigger and bigger jobs and more staff. So we have a full studio now where we have 50 employees. We have our own sound stage. We have
Nice.
some cameras and stuff like that, editing, pretty much everything. We can do audio. So then we started trying to get involved in movies, producing movies, or like kind of teaming up with people who needed something that we had that they were missing. And then started making our own movies. We made 4 or 5 of our own movies, and then all the while I was looking for the project for me to direct. And I kind of had I did some shorts, and I had some things set up with some studios that were in development, but they were just kind of like taking forever. And I'm like, meanwhile, I'm getting older, and I'm missing out. And then like some jobs I'm missing out on because I hadn't done a movie already, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I just need to like make a movie. So we made
Oh,
this movie.
I'm sitting here feeling that I'm talking to somebody that I'm gonna be seeing his name a whole lot these next couple of years. Cause I with the Muppet show, with
Yeah.
the Muppet
Well, so
movie.
we started doing we started working with the Muppets over a decade ago. We started doing like viral videos for the internet for them, producing
Mhm.
and directing and writing and doing all the stuff. And then we ended up doing a lot of all the commercials and stuff for the movies. and then we did a lot of the like post production for the TV show, the one that was on ABC, and then we did right before the pandemic, we shot a show called Muppets Now that we created, and that came out on Disney Plus. And then we pitched, or I don't know how exactly it started, but we got asked to make this Muppets Haunted Mansion project, so we produced that, and we filmed it in the exact.
Did that just
Sorry.
came out?
Yeah,
I
it
think
just
that
came
just
out like a week and a half ago, something like that. So we actually filmed that whole thing in the exact same spot that we filmed the old ways. So very different looks for that, but yeah, and I've been working with the Muppets now, like I said, for I don't know, 11, 12 years, and so I've got a lot of experience with puppets and wires and rods and stuff like that, and so we kind of folded some of that experience into how we did the demon in our movie, and so it's all kind of intermingles over time.
Yeah, it's like you did a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
Jack all trades, you a master all trades to me, buddy.
Yeah,
because,
well, at least a Jack. But yeah, I know how to do a little of everything, kind of, and except music. I don't have any musical skill, but everything else, editing and filming and VFX and directing and all that jazz. I know enough. I think the benefit of that is I'm able to find people who are extremely good at those individual things and speak their language enough, and kind of I know how to push them to do bigger and better things because I know what's possible, even if I can't do it. I know how to describe what I want, and challenge them in ways that I think, people like to be challenged. And if you're the best one in the room at what you do, you kind of like, you never get any better, so working with people like that, I'm able to use that experience I have to help them.
Even look at the old ways, and even look at some of your projects that I looked on your website, that especially always I can see they was very well directed.
Thanks.
It's because they captured the emotion of the characters, and you can feel it through the TV screen. You feel what I'm saying? It's like, that's why I said it was like, even to the point to not just the acting, but just the way that the flow of the movie. That's why I say I can tell it was well put together, well directed. And it, like, to me, I'm sitting here like, I'm sorry, I can't wait to see more of your horror films, because to me, I think as a director, man, you good. You real good. I'm sorry. Actually, I sat and watched it today at work, and I had some people at work was like, "What's this?" And I told them what it was. They were looking at it. You have some people right now watching it as we speak.
So, that's great. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
that's nice. Yeah, it's it's just a process. I've been trying to do this since I was 10, maybe 8.
So what was your first movie that you directed?
I mean, this is, well, Marcus and I actually made a student film that was feature length in college, for like $4,000, and it actually got distribution and everything. It's not very good, but we sold it to some place that released it on DVD, and it was in our local Blockbuster Video back then. And but I don't really count that because I mean that really was like 12 days with a bunch of film school friends, shooting in the woods and just kind of figuring it, because I didn't get to do a thesis film, so we kind of did that instead. And we had read Robert Rodriguez's book at the time, and it was like, go make 3 bad movies. So we're like, okay, let's do our first one. But then I did lots of shorts and commercials and stuff since. I did this one, oh gosh, it was probably 9 years ago, 19 years ago, called it's like a music video short called Eye of the Storm. If you check that out, it's pretty crazy. It's like a steampunk crazy. It's weird, but that got me a lot of attention.
I was looking at that when I was just looking at that, and
yeah,
I was like, "Damn, man, who you did the artwork for this, for that?"
Yeah, so I created that whole thing, and then I had some help for sure on the VFX. Like a friend of mine, Wes Ball, who's actually like a huge director now. At the time, he helped me. He did most of some of the animation and stuff in it. He now does like he's working on the next Planet of the Apes, I think. So he's not available for me to hire anymore because he's taken over Hollywood on his own. But yeah, I did that. So the guy in that video, the person walking around and everything, and the person who wrote the song is Ben Lovett, who did the score for The Old Ways.
Okay.
So we've been working together forever. And but yeah, that thing is what I kind of got me my agents and the foot in the door in Hollywood, and J.J. Abrams saw it and loved it and stuff like that. So it was that I was like, okay, great, I made it. And now it's been 10 years.
Saying
I'm still doing my first movie 10 years later.
And,
it happens.
So say it don't matter when it hit, long as it hits.
Yeah.
Is that what I say?
Yeah. So, it's just everything kind of fits together eventually. Keep chipping away.
So what's next? What is next on the slate?
Yeah.
For let me say the name of your
know. Yeah, for Soapbox.
Soapbox.
I don't know. Soapbox Films. Yeah. I do not know. Things, COVID times have slowed some things down. Got a couple of pokers on the fire. Like there's a sci-fi movie, like a sci-fi thriller that I've been working on for probably 10 years. That we're trying to get the cast attached to it. We've got some of the cast on there. So if we get the rest of the cast attached, hopefully we can get financing for that. Marcus and I are working on another horror film that we're just starting to share the script with some people. That's more of a like studio style horror film that, maybe we can get somebody interested to help us get it made. And and we're also kind of working on some ideas for a sequel for this in case we can drum up some support for that, which I'm
pretty sure y'all. Yeah, it was probably in the series because it would make for an interesting series. I'm not even going for it, and definitely the sequel would be high. So I mean, I go ahead.
I'm excited.
I'm sorry.
So hopefully something good will come. And we're working on some other stuff that unfortunately I'm not allowed to talk about, but hopefully something cool soon.
Most definitely. Well, I know this much. I would love to bring you back on the show.
Yeah, let me know. Or if I have something fun, hopefully someday soon we'll have something else exciting to talk about as well. But,
most definitely. And my platform is open to you to talk about your projects that's coming.
Thank you.
See?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Exciting. No doubt. You're based on your East Coast?
Yeah. I'm based in Durham, North Carolina.
Cool. I'm from Atlanta.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, he done went from Atlanta to Hollywood.
Yeah. And then, I grew up in Atlanta dreaming about coming to Hollywood to make movies, and now we make all their movies. Go back one day.
Because I'm like, it seems like every time I look up, there's a movie in Atlanta or a new movie come out in Atlanta, or it's a TV series. I swear.
Yeah. It's hard for me to watch a lot of shows because I'm like, that's not New York. That's Atlanta. I know what Atlanta is.
Yeah, I be seeing it too. I be like, come on, bro. Come on. Stop pretending like good with that Seattle. That is not New York.
Yeah.
That ain't even Miami, buddy. Come on. We can tell the difference.
Exactly. Yeah. The South has a look.
Yeah. And you can't deny it. No matter how much they try to fake it, they can't. Yeah. Even when I look at I had the chance to take a look at what was it? the Oval Office, wherever it is one where they probably like in DC. You can just tell it's Atlanta. They try to pretend like it's DC.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy. But you know, it's a good place to film. So
yeah,
more power to them.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. So tell everybody where they can find you, sir.
Sitting in my house all the time. I'm at Chris Alender on I think everything. It's ChrisAlender. So Twitter, Insta. I guess that's everything. That's everything for me. I'm not on TikTok or any of the other newfangled stuff the kids are on these days, but maybe
I
one
have
day.
to be on it for my podcasting. Trust me, the only thing I do is just post something and that's it. I don't just go through the feed no more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You talking about age? I'm 3 years old. I think I'm 3 years older than you, buddy. So, if you old, you know I'm old. I'm ancient.
I know my thumb's starting to cramp up from all the social media stuff, so I gotta get off it. But yeah, I love podcasts.
No doubt,
for sure.
No doubt.
That's the one good thing that came out of this revolution of technology lately.
Oh yeah, people get to talk about and give their opinions, and hope someone want to listen. I'm sorry. You got to be an entertaining motherfucker to keep somebody entertained for an hour. So I feel blessed that I've been able to do that. So
yeah, it's awesome. Well, I appreciate you reaching out.
No doubt. I appreciate you coming in. So people, you know how we always end this. Life is a learning experience. What's the point of experience? You didn't learn anything. Smoke this over. Thank you for coming to the lounge.